Welcome to another inspiring episode of the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. Hosts Melanie Johnson and Jenn Foster are the owners of Elite Online Publishing. They're both Wall Street Journal, USA Today best-selling authors. We're really glad you're here because this podcast was designed for you. Meet industry experts that share their secrets and strategies. Get successful results for your business in money, relationships, health, and your life. Each episode is going to inspire you to take action towards reaching your greatness.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming today. This is Melanie Johnson along with Jenn Foster. Hey Jenn.
Hey everyone, how's it going today?
Well, we have a surprise today, but before I tell you that, make sure you subscribe to our show and leave us a comment and turn on your notifications so you can know when you're going to get us. We're on YouTube as well as all the places you can get your podcasts from. So today we have a really, I want to call it one of the best kept secrets, I think, in business. You might not think about that. So many people have side hustles today, or even it might be a main hustle that you're selling something online. You're created an online business and then you're like, okay, well, I don't want to do it anymore. And you just kind of let it go. Jenn and I have books that we have that we never even thought of selling off to someone, that we published. But we had this inside secret. You were going to see a way that you can take a business that you already have that you could sell it for, usually a business, a multiple, if you're selling it for 5 to 12 times cash flow is big, like 12 times cash flow is big. We're talking 35 to 58 times cash flow these businesses are going for. So if you want to learn more, you better stay tuned right here. We have Gregory Elfrink with us from Empire Flippers, and we are going to talk about this best kept secret. Thanks, Gregory, for coming today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. Hopefully I'll be able to add some value to the audience.
Great. Well, tell us a little bit about your background and where you came from, how you got into the flipping businesses space.
Sure. So I have a bit of a unique background. So I was an oil field roughneck in Alaska. That's where I was born and raised. So drilling literally for oil, covered in chemicals, wearing a Darth Vader rubber suit. I didn't like it very much. I was not a fan. And during my off times, I'd work a 12, 18-hour day, usually the 7 days a week, because oil field, you never really have days off. I taught myself internet marketing from there with an emphasis on SEO, content marketing, and copywriting. Eventually what happened, so I was building my client base, freelancing on the side. Eventually what happened is I saw a job posting from Empire Flippers, which I knew because I was obsessed with everything to do with internet marketing. So I knew like all the players, read all the blogs, all that stuff. And they were looking for a content marketer. So I thought, well, here's a job I'm not going to get because I have no college degree or nothing like that. So usually I just get like filtered out and rejected, right? So I applied and it turns out I was wrong. I ended up getting the job. So I moved from Alaska. At the time, the founders were living in Southeast Asia because we're completely remote. And at the time they were in Vietnam. So they brought me out to Vietnam to do training and fell in love with Southeast Asia. So I'm still in Asia. I'm still in Vietnam.
Wow, that's a great story. I mean, I live in Houston, so we have a lot of oil people here. It's quite a change from being a roughneck on an oil field to doing what you're doing now. So Tell us about Empire Flippers, the type of businesses that you look for, and how they go about creating a business or having a business and selling it. Kind of walk us through the process of what Empire Flippers do.
Sure. So what we do, we're the largest curated marketplace in the world now for people who want to buy and sell online businesses, right? So that's anything from, say, an e-commerce store, an Amazon FBA business, a KDP business that we were talking about a little bit offline, to affiliate sites, even apps, Shopify apps, iPhone apps, SaaS businesses, you name it. We sold a bit of everything at this point over the 6 years that are primarily digital businesses. So in order to sell a business, like the first thing is that like it has to be making money, right? Like almost everything except for SaaS businesses, which are a little bit different, are based off of an EBITDA or an SDE kind of valuation. And those are just like fancy acronyms that mean kind of the same thing for most people in the space, because like the two differences of valuations aren't really wildly different from each other. So don't worry about it. But your valuation would be based off of your average cash flow, your average net profit. We look at it on a monthly basis. So I know you said earlier, the best kept secret with the multiples, right? which just to clarify for your audience, because of the way we started out, that's actually a monthly multiple. So when you see something like, say, a 36x on our website, that'd be like a 3x cash flow. Now we do sell things up to 7 and 8x. I think the biggest thing we've ever sold was like 9x. I think that was last year, but that's the basics of it. So when you have a business making money, you want to sell and you want some help, because to be honest, selling a business is a very rare event in an entrepreneur's life. It's what I call a highlight event. You come to someone like me and my team, and you get access to our marketplace, our buyer network of $6 billion, and you get access to our M&A advisory consultancy, right? So that's what we help entrepreneurs with, which
Awesome.
could be difficult for an entrepreneur to do on their own. So we try to protect the entrepreneur.
Right. And then how do you know, like, if your business is even worth anything? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially the ones I know, even the brick and mortar ones, they just close their doors because they're like, it's not worth anything because it didn't make a profit or did, back and forth, because most businesses are up and down. So how do you know if your business is worth anything, whether it's an offline business or an online business?
Very good question. So a lot of entrepreneurs feel that way. And I think part of it is because, especially in the online world, but a little bit in the brick and mortar too, is like sometimes these businesses are started as a side hustle. And so you just always think of it that way. Even like I have friends in the Amazon FBA space, for example, they have a $4, $5, $6 million business, but they're still in their mind, they're thinking of it as the side hustle. So that's how they started it. And just they never grow out of that mindset of like, oh, wait, no, I accidentally built a little empire here. Mm-hmm. So the first thing to see if it has value is, does it make money? Does it have a good, solid net profit? Is it growing or at least staying stable? Declining, you can still sell a declining business, but it's more difficult, obviously. You're going to get a lower valuation. The other thing I always ask an entrepreneur is like, is this truly a system of leverage, or is this like a fancy freelancer kind of setup, right? I have a lot of friends who own agencies, or at least they say they're an agency, but they're really more of a freelancer that says they're an agency, because if they went away, there's no business, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things I always challenge entrepreneurs is to ask yourself, are you the most useless person on your team? Because if you're the most useless person on your team, that's actually awesome from a valuation perspective, because that means you built a machine that's running with or without you at this point, right? So those are some kind of questions I would ask myself. Do I have value? And I would honestly ask, someone like me or someone similar to me, it doesn't have to be EF, hey, does my business have value? Because you might be on the cusp of having a really good value, but there might be something wrong, right? Like for example, if someone's making a lot of money, but they're only say, 13, 15-month-old business, like, yes, that is a sellable business, but you're going to have a hard time selling that, especially if it's like over 7 or 8 figures at that duration, because the history is so small, versus like a 24, 36-month-old business. Now you're in a much more sellable position.
That makes sense, because if it's just a young company, then it's not really going to be, they don't think that it has the sustainability versus 36 months. So 36 months is kind of the threshold, you're saying, is the better threshold and easier to sell.
Yeah, I think you can get away with like 24 months, but I wouldn't really recommend younger than 24. Most businesses we see are between 24 and 36 months. And the lot more data you have, usually that helps your valuation, because history, obviously, like the past doesn't predict the future, right? But it does like let you know, like, hey, if I had this FBA store for say 3 years, I probably have seen a lot of crazy stuff that Amazon's changed, and I survived it, and that predicts that you can survive the future too, or helps.
How do you position yourself? Like, you're thinking, okay, I want to get ready to do this. What are some of the top things that we should do? Is it clean up the back end? Is it to make sure our processes are in order? Like, what are some of like the laundry list of things we should do before we sell?
Yeah. So it depends on your timeline to sell. So the closer you get to actually selling the business, you should do less like fundamental changes. Let's say you had like 18 months, you had a long, track record or long roadmap ahead before you decide to sell, right? Mm-hmm. Things I would do is looking to scale up different traffic sources. So traffic diversity. So if I'm running a business and 100% of my leads or customers are coming from Facebook ads, well, that's fine as long as I still have a Facebook ad account, right? But what happens if my ad account goes away? Well, now I don't have a business, right? Or have a Is revenue diversity? Am I selling more than one product? And does that make a meaningful amount? So to put like my friends in the Amazon FBA space, for example, they'll sometimes have a little Shopify store as well, but that usually makes up like 1 or 2% of their business. So that's not really going to impact the valuation at the end of the day there. But the thing you can do with revenue diversity is have multiple products with no one product making up, say, 50%. You can definitely sell a one product only business. It's just riskier for the end buyer. And some buyers are okay with that, but usually you'll get a better multiple. You have, multiple products. Now, as you get closer to selling, say you're like 3 months out, you don't want to do any of that stuff I just mentioned, because like you don't want to rock the boat. You want to kind of maintain the sales of the ship, right? So things I would focus on is the thing every entrepreneur, at least solo entrepreneurs, absolutely hate, which is your SOPs. Like write them out, your standard operating procedures, because that is really a buyer's manual of how to operate your business. Like if you can write an SOP that like you can just give it to someone and they could do like 80% as good of a job as you, that's a success in my book. And that goes back to the machine analogy I was talking about, building something with leverage. So SOPs, and another one that's really tedious but extremely important is your numbers, your bookkeeping, your profit and loss statements, all that kind of stuff. But we find that most entrepreneurs really struggle with this because most entrepreneurs are more creative than like, numerical in the books, all that kind of stuff, which I get. I'm that way too. I'm a marketer, right? So I'm hyper creative, which means I'm usually bad with the numbers aspects of stuff. My head is in the cloud. So I always recommend entrepreneurs, if you don't use someone like us, because we will build your profit and loss statement for you. But if you don't use us, find a bookkeeper, and not just like any bookkeeper, find a bookkeeper in your industry. So if you're an e-commerce person, find one who has a lot of experience with that. And one of the most important things is to switch all the books over to accrual instead of cash basis accounting. Like a lot of entrepreneurs do cash based because it just is easier in a lot of ways. But accrual can literally be the difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars when you go to exit.
Okay.
That's interesting.
And then go ahead, Jen.
I was just going to say, so a lot of people listening probably are going to have to get out their Google or their dictionary because all these acronyms thrown around, they might not know what they mean, but that's okay, because we have Google today. So you don't need to know what AFB is, right? Or A.
Oh, sorry. FBA is just a business model. It's fulfilled by Amazon. So that's a business model where someone is like a e-commerce store that is selling a product on Amazon.
Right.
Yeah. And SOP is system of operations, right? System of
standard operating procedure.
Standard operating procedure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've worked on that in our business over and over again, is getting that all together.
Your processes and your systems. I love that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I was going to ask you, so at 3 months out, I remember my former father-in-law sold his television station, and we didn't know that he was thinking about selling it at the time. And so he stopped buying new programming. And we're like, why are you not buying this new programming? Like, this would be killing it. This would be great. So what he did, he started to position himself to take debt off the books. So it made his cash flow look higher. So I think that might be another tip, is to limit your expenses, right? Go through all your expenses, cut where any expenses that you have to boost your profit up, so you show you're even more profitable.
Absolutely. So the way that usually plays out in our space, in the online business space, is experimental marketing. Experimental marketing is usually you're losing money, hence the experiment, because most marketing doesn't work at first. Like you need to reiterate over and over and over again, whether there's a PPC campaign, like pay-per-click on Facebook ads or something like that. So usually that would be experimental marketing. Other things is like launching new products. So if you're a e-commerce store owner, or even, running a publishing business, you may not want to launch like a brand new book or new product because of all the extra advertising that has to go in to prove that product if you're about to sell. Instead, what I usually recommend is, say you have, 10 products or some crazy number, like I really want to launch these products. You can give those to the buyer as a bonus. Like, hey, look, this is the roadmap. I already kind of figured out all the research. I will give it to you once you buy the business, and now you can go launch it if you want. But that's one way to save that cash flow. And you're absolutely right. Limiting expenses is super important, as long as you don't make some mistakes. So like, you don't want to stop paying for things that are fundamental to your business to keep it running. For example, again, with e-commerce, sometimes people will be like, okay, I'm going to give up my warehouse and ship all the products to my home to save money on the warehouse costs because I'm about to sell. But like, The buyer is just going to set up the warehouse. And now because they have to do extra effort, they're probably going to give you an even worse discount. And you're not going to save anything from doing this. So always think about the fundamentals, run the business, maintain the business. Don't give up like the fundamental cores of running it.
Let's like first engineer it of what if you're buying a business. So I see all these, that's like the new candy that's on your website. Oh, you could buy this, you could buy that. So how do you know you're really getting what you want and that you can manage it? I took a look at some of the businesses for sale and some of the things like, oh, well, they're saying you have to spend X amount of hours. And so walk us through the buying process.
Sure. So one thing on hours spent is usually entrepreneurs underreport how much they're working on a business. So you're seeing something like 4 to 8 hours a week. It's probably closer to like 15 to 20 hours a week, which is still not a lot. But when it comes to you as a buyer, I would always expect to work probably double whatever that is, at least for the first month as you figure things out. But the first things I tell any new buyer is let's first like ask, what are your goals? So your personal and your business goals are like, and it sounds a bit woo-woo, but I think this is extremely important to know what are you trying to achieve, right? Like, are you buying a business because you want to be a lifestyle entrepreneur on the beaches of Thailand, right? Or are you looking to like scale a massive startup in Austin or something like that with the business you're buying, right? So that's the first thing. Ask yourself, like, what are you looking to do from a lifestyle perspective? And then also from a business perspective, like, do you like handling physical products? If you do, then e-commerce is great. If not, then you should probably avoid that entire business model, right? If you hate that concept, right? So that's the first thing. Know what you want. Then list out what kind of skills you already have. So if you have a background in marketing, that's fantastic. A lot of times when I ask people to like list their skills, they're like, I have no internet marketing skills, so I'm out, right? Like, but that's not true because most people have a lot of skills from their daily life that they can apply to businesses. For example, running an online business, I think the most powerful skill you can have to build real wealth is understanding how to delegate and manage people. I think that is absolutely the most like core wealth building skill as an entrepreneur, because that's all part of the machine aspect again, right? So there's a lot of skills that people already have that they never think about, that they can think about just a little bit differently. And now like, okay, I understand this now. The next is budget, understanding what your budget is. And there's two things. There's working capital and acquisition capital. So acquisition capital is how much money do I actually have to spend on a business to buy? And working capital is how much money am I keeping in reserve for my like, oh crap moment? Because that happens in entrepreneurship, right? It's a roller coaster all the time. So I usually recommend having like 20% in reserves is what I typically have. And that's a rule of thumb. Not everyone needs that. The other thing for a brand new buyer I would recommend is take that original acquisition capital budget and split it into thirds, because that first business you buy, even if you use someone like us and we will try to help and guide you to the best possible asset for you, like things can still go wrong, right? Like once you buy the business, like it's up to you to run it, right? Like it's yours now.
Run itself.
Like, right, exactly. And you might have made mistakes you never thought about once you have that business. So when you're first starting out, I think it's very, very important to bake in the concept of risk, because while buying a business can be absolutely the best investment in your life, like I've seen it over and over again, people just grow massively. And I think entrepreneurship through acquisition is the safest route of entrepreneurship because it's already a proven market fit, right? Because it's already making money. But that doesn't mean it's not risky. So you want to bake in that margin of error and give yourself several shots at it. So by dividing that capital into thirds, you have 2 more shots. And by the time you do the third one, like you will probably be very much in the know, as long as you stuck to the same business model, which is my last advice. Choose one business model, become a master of it.
I like that. So do you ever have people come to buy a business from Empire Flippers and then they put it back up for sale right away and actually flip it?
So that's where we get the second half of the name of Empire Flippers.
Yeah, so similar to real estate flipping, you're just buying a company. Maybe you tweak some things, maybe you add some things or add value, or maybe it just the economy does better and then you can sell it for more.
Absolutely. So we have a type of customer. So as a buyer, there's several different business models within the concept of buying. Instead of just like buying business and making money, there's different flavors of buying. And flipping is one of them. So they look for, businesses are often in distress is usually what they want. So they want to buy the declining business because they can get it for a discount as long as they know how to fix the problem that is causing the issue, right? So I've seen the same business on Empire Flippers sold 4 different times, which is pretty crazy. The craziest story, which I do not recommend this at all to anyone to do, and I've only ever seen it once, but it's a very funny story, is there was this guy, he bought it was an affiliate site. So a website that has like a bunch of content on it, monetized through like Amazon affiliate links. He bought it for, I think, $104,000 from us. So not a huge business by any means. And he said in our customer service chat, like, hey, it seemed like there was a lot of competition for this business. And I'm like, yeah, it was a pretty heated thing, like back and forth. You were lucky you got it. There's a lot of people wanted it. He's like, well, could you reach out to all those buyers and be like, I'll sell this for $115K right now if anyone's still interested? And I'm like, okay. So we did. And we hadn't even started transferring the business over to him yet. So he's owned this business for maybe an hour or two. And we sold it again for $115K. So he just made $12,000, $14,000 in 2 hours.
Wow.
I've never seen that happen again. So that's why I don't recommend it. It's a very risky move to make that your core business of flipping. But it was quite funny to see.
That's cool.
That was a good question. Well, what types of businesses do you think, you have a variety of them on there that you talked about earlier. What are the most popular and then the most profitable, that are in demand, and then the ones that are making the most money really when you buy them?
Sure. So I think the business that is the most popular is Amazon FBA. So again, that's that e-commerce style business that's selling products on Amazon. There's a huge amount of buyers for that. If you have a really quality business, you can sell it for a very good multiple right now. And that business can make you a ton of money for sure. It's more stressful, I would say. So it can be pretty beginner friendly. I think it's more beginner friendly than say a Shopify e-commerce store. Probably the easiest in terms of running and cash flow though would be a content site that's monetized through display ads specifically. So that would be Google AdSense would be an example of people click the ad and you make a little bit of money, and you usually are driving traffic through Google SEO. So maybe you have a website about dogs or something like that, and you have all these articles about dog training, bring in the Google traffic, and that traffic is clicking on the ads. That is by far the most lifestyle friendly business. And from a operation standpoint, you have pretty big margins because you can run those businesses pretty lean. And if you have a very busy lifestyle, that's a great one because you can not look at the site for a few weeks and nothing bad has happened. Versus an e-commerce store, you don't look at the business for a while. You have all these customer support tickets. Where are you? What's going on?
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, you just have to drive traffic to the website if you know how to drive traffic to the website, and it's just affiliate links for the ads. So you're not trying to sell people to put ads on the website. That's a good one, Jen.
Right.
We should try that one.
Yeah, I like that one.
We have a bunch of them for you guys to buy. We'll make you to a customer by the end of this.
Yeah.
There we go. That's awesome. Well, tell us where people can go to find more about you and more about what you do and how they can get involved.
Empire Flippers.
Sure. So empireflippers.com is the website. We have my team. We do a bunch of different blogs, articles, videos, podcasts. I have a little YouTube channel I do for the company as well. If people want to reach out to me personally, it's just Greg at empireflippers.com. I'm always happy to help. You can also add me on LinkedIn or Facebook, but if you add me on Facebook, I write a lot of poetry because I like to write fiction. So apologies in advance for my bad poetry, but always happy to connect with anyone and happy to help whether you use us or not, or you just have a random question. So.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you so much for your interview. It was just so fascinating. I'm sure we opened up the eyes to a lot of people who never even knew this existed, kind of like us as well. So make sure that you check out Empire Flippers. We'll see you next time. Remember, if you're looking to write a book, we guarantee that all our authors become #1 on Amazon and also Wall Street Journal, USA Today. So go ahead and look us up, eliteonlinepublishing.com. And remember to subscribe and sign up for those notifications and leave us a notice. We'd love to hear from you. Talk to you next time. Have a great week.
Bye.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.